Welcome to Headlines and History, live news reactions and your views. We're about to go live soon, so grab your spot and get ready for a sharp, balanced take on today's biggest news stories with a dash of historical insight. Stay tuned. Each week, we tackle the headlines that matter: politics, economics, global events with a balanced lens. We'll react live, tie today's stories to historical moments, and spotlight your views in the chat. From trade talks echoing the 1990s to crises recalling 2008, we're here to unpack it all. Your voice drives the show. Share your thoughts or historical parallels in the live chat, and we'll dive into the best ones. It's news, context, and community all in 1 hour. We're moments away from launching Headlines and History. Stick around for live reactions, historical nuggets, and your chance to chime in. Hit the notification bell, prep your comments, and let's make sense of the news together. See you soon. Yeah. Welcome back to Headlines and History. We've been away for about a week, had to take care of a few things, but I'm glad to be back. So it's been a hot week. It's been 35 degrees outside over here, and it's been interesting to say the least. All right, now what I want to do today is look at some of the updates from the Trump takeover of Washington, D.C. But before we dive in, we usually like to do something very important to me and to a lot of people out there, and that is take a look at what the scriptures have to say, and that is the Bible. And today's Bible verse will be Proverbs chapter 11, verse 1. We've read a lot from Proverbs 11 over the last few broadcasts. It says, a false balance is an abomination. A false balance is an abomination to the Lord. But the NIV says the Lord detests dishonest scales, but accurate weights find favor with him. This guides my interpretation of what's going on in the news and the political space. If I favor one side when they do something wrong, that's called a dishonest scale. It's like what the Democrats and the Republicans do. The Democrats can do no wrong according to some Democrats, and the Republicans can do no wrong according to the Republicans. Now, we have to judge fairly and justly, and that's why scriptures like this are very important to me. They keep me honest and keep me from shilling to, for one side or the other. So when we catch them doing something that isn't exactly honest or right, then we have to call it out. All right. Now, I have a poll on the YouTube side, and I would like you to answer the poll. Do you think that Democrat cities, are safer with the crackdown of on crime or not? Just answer the poll, because I'm going to be looking at the poll, because some of the stories here are very interesting, to say the least. All right. And don't forget to like the video, help us share the video, and then don't forget to subscribe if you're not a subscriber. Hit the bell icon so that you're notified whenever we go live, because we're going to be doing a lot of that from now on. Now, today in history, we're going to look at what happened today in history. In 1877, American inventor Thomas Alva Edison made perhaps his most original discovery, the phonograph, and his early recordings were indentations embossed onto a sheet of tinfoil by a vibrating stylus. That's cool. And the phonograph is responsible for what we're doing today. Our ability to broadcast our voices and our pictures started from the phonograph, because if there was no way of capturing sound and storing it on a disc, we wouldn't even be able to start thinking of transmitting it. So this is very important. Now, let's dive into our story. So over the last few days, there's been this upheaval around Trump's takeover of law and order in Washington, D.C. We're going to listen to this story because, for me, it makes no sense that people would see something good and want to fight it. Now, keep the comments coming, please. Leave a comment. Let me know what you think about the reaction of mainstream media and the reaction of those who claim to be for law and order, and how they go ballistic over a simple idea of keeping criminals off the streets.
We are getting new video of the National Guard arriving in Washington, D.C. after President Trump called them in to help bring order to our nation's capital. Reaction is pouring in from the left surrounding President Trump's major crime crackdown. And they're seething, all because President Trump wants to keep Americans safe. Hello, everyone. This is Outnumbered. I'm Emily Campagno here with my co-host, Harris Faulkner. And also joining us today, Lisa Booth, Fox News political analyst, Kennedy, podcast host of Kennedy Saves the World, and Bill Hemmer, co-anchor of America's Newsroom. Now, President Trump says the National Guard and temporary federal control of the D.C. police will help him to clean up D.C. streets once and for all. But for some reason, Democrats aren't happy.
What the president did this morning was political theater. His idea in federalizing the police force of D.C. ignores the reality. They are making dramatic progress in reducing violent crime in D.C.
Okay, so the question is, have there been crimes reported from Washington, D.C. over the last few days that are shocking for some people? There have been reports of a teenager firing gunshots close to the nation's Capitol building. We've had the reports of Big Balls. I don't know if he still works for Doge, but he was trying to help a woman who was being carjacked by a group of teenagers, and he got beaten up severely. And there are many stories like that just over the last few days. The question then is, all of those people who suffered those crimes, are they political theater? Now, to be honest, and I want us to think together, to be honest, it is possible that all of a sudden a spotlight could have been put on Washington, D.C. to report all of these stories. It is possible. However, it is equally possible that these have been going on for a long time and nothing has been done about it. And now that the president is taking action, the simplest thing would have been to just say, well, the president is doing what he should be doing as the president of the United States. Kudos to him, and then move on. But Democrats just can't help themselves. And that's just the way it looks. They can't help themselves. They just have to jump on a bandwagon like they do and start saying stuff that doesn't make sense.
Cameras on everything that's going on, because this president is trying to lead us into what could be called a civil war.
I call it an abuse of power, right? The only reason this can...
Excuse me, how does stamping out crime in a city lead to civil war? Can you let me know in the chat? I'm trying to understand how that works. Making a city safe would lead to civil war. I remember statements that were made about how the communists in the Soviet Union basically took over things. They simply they sowed chaos into the society by releasing criminals and the insane to cause problems. And then they showed up to say, hey, I'm here to solve the problem. And whenever I hear Democrats react to things like this, it just makes me remember that account.
Happened to us in Washington, D.C. is because we are not a state. In no other city can the president take over the local police force. And I think that is ridiculous and insane.
And more reactions pouring in on social media with House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries.
All right, so let me talk about Washington, D.C. not being a state. It is by design. It is by design that the seat of power should not be a state. And it was agreed upon. Look, I don't even live in the United States. And you guys say some of the most unhinged things about your own country. I don't live in the United States, but I know enough to say that I understand what the founding fathers were about when they said the seat of power cannot be a state by itself, because a state that hosts or is the headquarters of the most powerful person in the country would have undue privileges and cannot function as a state does. It was very clear. It's civics, I would say civics 101. But for people who don't recognize the historicity of some of the actions of the founding fathers, it's not surprising that they say stuff like that.
Is telling the president to, quote, get lost, and failed presidential candidate Hillary Clinton calling him unhinged.
Okay, so according to Hakeem Jeffries, violent crime in Washington, D.C. is at a 30-year low. So I want to ask this question out there. Now, if crime in Washington, D.C. is at, let's say, 100%, and then it drops by 30%, okay, that means you still have 70% crime going on. And for people who don't drive around with an entourage of Secret Service protection like Hakeem Jeffries, Hillary Clinton, and all the other guys who have been talking, and we've listened to them talk and tell everybody how Washington, D.C. is safe, they have security 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. As members of Senate, as members of the government, they have security. So they're trying to tell you that you shouldn't believe your lying eyes. All the crimes that you see in your neighborhood, they're not real. This president is trying hard to make you feel unsafe. He's sowing chaos into your consciousness.
Meanwhile, anti-Trump protesters hit the streets, pushing back against the crime crackdown by singing. DC is our home.
Oh, this is cringe. All right, so I'll say this in the most charitable way I can muster, and I look, I really don't I don't feel upset about some of the weird behavior that I've been seeing over the last 12 years. You see these grown-ups coming out to sing to oppose a president that wants to make them safe. People have said that the left wing, of course, the Democrat Party right now is just made up of far left people, are just a bunch of mentally ill people, because you can't have your rational faculties intact and believe some of the things that they believe. It's hard to do that. I'll say it's impossible to do that. You can't believe these things with your faculties intact. Someone says, I'm going to make your city safe, and you're out there opposing him and trying to tell him that he's doing something wrong. The politicians are saying that he's grandstanding, while people on the streets are getting mugged, beaten, attacked, shot, killed. It's just, it's weird. Now, already the poll on the YouTube side shows people agree that when there's a crackdown on crime, cities are safer. 100%. Rational people believe that that is the way the world works. If you crack down on crime, it goes away. If you reward crime with cashless bail, crime goes up, because the people know that there's no consequence to their crimes.
The liberal media is joining the chorus as well.
Maybe it's not about crime. Maybe it's that he really enjoys using U.S. military force against American civilians on American soil and wants any excuse to do it anywhere he can.
Chris, to be honest with you, I'm trying to hold my temper. I think there's an ongoing argument that he's having in his head with Black Lives Matter. We have to understand this, Chris, within the context of Donald Trump's racial politics. He's actually trying to give his base red meat to.
So it's, people like this who show up on TDS-BC, Trump Derangement Syndrome Broadcasting Corporation, they say the strangest things. They say the strangest things. So cracking down on crime is now a racial issue. Some of the individuals who have been arrested, who committed crimes, the juveniles who committed crimes, are not black. I think I saw a mugshot of someone who was connected to the shootings around the Capitol building, and they were white. So they say these things trying to make it all about race, and it isn't. So it's just weird that stuff like that gets played on air, and they say it with a straight face.
Get them off of the Epstein story, and it's on the backs of citizens in Washington, D.C.
All right, so he wants to go back to the Epstein story, but these were the guys who said that the Epstein story was a conspiracy theory. Interesting.
And the Washington Post is getting called out for quoting one D.C. resident who claimed the city was safe, but also requested to speak anonymously off the record.
So let's see this. This is a safe city, referring to Washington, D.C. But overhearing and witnessing gang threats and then watching the camera footage of the thuggery is disturbing. This is that cognitive dissonance that you keep running into when you meet people who support the policies of the left, and you try to ask them to explain how those policies make sense. And it's almost like they go into this spiral. The city is safe, but watching the crime footage of a safe city is disturbing. And one resident speaking on the condition of anonymity over concerns of personal safety. Oh yeah, the city is safe. Imagine that. If I speak up about the crime that's going on in my city, I think a criminal in my safe city is going to attack me.
Over, quote, concerns of personal safety. Bill, you can't make this stuff up, but at the end of the day, it's tragic because these are people's lives that are getting lost.
Yeah.
Good afternoon to you. Good to be with you all, ladies. It's been a minute. You're an attorney. I think one of the interesting things about what Trump has done here is that he goes in and picks our former colleague, Judge Jeanine Pirro. And in the District of Washington, D.C., you have federal and some local jurisdiction, which is significant because you can plug people into the job and they can enact what you want to happen. You can't do that in every city. You can't do that in every state, but in the district.
Yeah, which is why Washington, D.C. cannot be run like a state, because that is the official seat of the federal government. So it has to be run differently. That's one of the reasons. So you have individuals who aren't adults, yes, juveniles committing crimes. And because of the soft on crime policies in Washington, D.C., they are let off back into the general population. They are a danger to everyone else and a danger to themselves, because if they continue down that path of crime, they are going to hurt themselves severely. And then you have Democrats running interference for criminals yet again. I keep saying in my videos, whenever Democrats defending crime comes up, I ask the question, why is it that Democrats seem to have this connection with defending criminals? They make the environment safer not for law-abiding citizens, but for the criminals. Why? It's mind-blowing that that keeps happening. And whenever we ask the question, there's no answer. No one can give a straight answer. Now, here's the mayor of Chicago. Okay, he's seeing what's going on in Washington, D.C. Trump is cracking down on crimes, and Trump is saying out loud, look, every other city that has a problem with crime might be getting the same treatment eventually. And here's what he has to say about a promise to help his city become safe.
Well, President Trump may not stop with D.C., signaling that federal intervention could be on the table for other cities. Cities like New York, Oakland, California, Los Angeles, and Baltimore. Chicago, another target for this potential crime crackdown.
If we need to, we're going to do the same thing in Chicago, which is a disaster. We have a mayor there who's totally incompetent. But when I look at Chicago and I look at L.A., if we didn't go to L.A. 3 months ago, L.A. would be burning like the part that didn't burn.
Well, News Nation's Alex Capriello live here in Chicago with a look at what the mayor had to say about the president's plans, as well as the response that just came from the White House. Alex.
Yeah, that's right, Nicole. Just moments ago, White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt clarified that right now the president is focusing on federalizing D.C.
So I'm going to cut to what he said because some outlets are being very protective about their content. So we've had one live stream restricted because one of them thinks that we played their videos too long. So I just want to be careful and keep cutting into the meat of the story. So here's the mayor giving us his wisdom on Trump saying, look, we're going to come help your city very soon.
He is one of the biggest threats to humanity that we've seen in an entire generation.
Again, how? I've met people and I've said, okay, explain to me why you think this, and they just can't. They want you to simply take the statement at face value and not ask questions. So how is he the biggest threat to humanity? If you know how, please put it in the comment section or in the chat. I want to know how he is the biggest threat to humanity.
And as mayor of the city of Chicago, and as someone who understands the premise of our Constitution, we are justified in our resistance.
All right, so your resistance of him enforcing the Constitution, how does that make sense? How does saying that you're justified in resisting law and order in your state? So he's coming to your state to make it safer, and you're justified to resist him to keep your cities unsafe.
To his authoritarianism.
All right, so that's the take of the average Democrat, claiming that Donald Trump is a danger to humanity. Him saying that he wants to come and make your city safe is a problem. The shocking thing is that people who live in Washington, D.C., there's a subset of people who live in Washington, D.C. that would rather keep the crime than agree that they need help. CNN has this poll, and they have a poll that says most people who live in D.C. don't want Trump's help. And I have to ask the question, are you happy with the crime rate? Are you happy with how unsafe the streets are? Are you happy with not being able to take a stroll outside late at night to get a jug of milk? I've lived in unsafe cities, and I've lived in a relatively safe part of North America. That's where I live right now. The difference is very clear. I would not want to go back to living in an unsafe space. Do you know what it feels like to, oh well, I'll tell you what, I know what it feels like to drive at night and not be sure that you're going to make it home without getting attacked. And you literally have to pray until you get home. I know how that feels. So when people talk like this, of course, the mayor has 24-hour security. He can say stuff like that. Everybody else can be exposed to crime. As long as they are safe, it is assumed that everyone shouldn't have a problem. Feed everyone the Trump is evil, he is the biggest threat to humanity line, and everybody will buy it and oppose Trump the same way you do. Pay a bunch of people who don't have jobs, who don't have anything better to do with their lives, and tell them to hold up signs to show that they oppose Trump. That's the grift. People who live real lives and face these things want their cities cleaned up and safer. According to CNN, DC residents hate that Trump is getting involved in cleaning up their city. If your city was doing okay, if there was no crime in your city, he wouldn't have to get involved. He wouldn't need to get involved. So let's look at the numbers of people who say they want to keep the crime.
President Trump putting other major cities on notice as he takes over the D.C. police force and mobilizes 800 National Guard troops into the nation's capital. The president saying he wants federal agencies to combat crime that he believes is out of control. Let's bring in CNN chief data analyst.
Now, I don't like it when talking heads say he believes. It either is or it isn't. So if they are making a report saying that Donald Trump says that there's a spike in crime in this city, it's not true. Don't say he believes. Don't frame it as if the person speaking is lying. Call it out and say, he's lying, here are the facts. Because what they do is they conflate statements saying he believes this, and then they spend the rest of the segment running circles trying not to say that the crime rate is actually higher than other parts of the United States, especially red cities where they are not soft on crime.
Harry Inton to break these numbers down for us. So Harry, let's start first with, do D.C. residents actually want this?
No, they hate this whole idea. I think there's some idea out there that Trump's somehow a conquering hero, but he's in fact is welcomed in Washington, D.C. as Eagles fans are Commanders games. What are we talking about here? Well, take a look here. D.C. residents on Trump and local issues. He's too involved. Look at this. 71% say he...
Okay, so those of you who don't know anything about Washington, D.C., is that D.C. is the bluest... It's not a state, but if it were a state, it's the bluest state out there because it's filled with Washington bureaucrats. And Washington bureaucrats are people who want to keep their jobs. They want to stay close to power. They want big government. They want increases in government spending, because when there's an increase in government spending, they get more money. It's the bluest state. It's not a state, but it's the bluest part of the country. So they are the poster child for Democrat support, along with Chicago, New York, and California. So when you have polls like this, it is definitely political. It's not common sense. These are not common sense numbers. If there's crime on your streets, how come they weren't solved until he got involved? Isn't that the conversation that we should be having? So 71% says he's too involved. Interesting.
Is too involved, and this, of course, was even before Monday's actions, compared to just 11%.
Every president, and I'll put it out there, every president has been too involved in the running of Washington, D.C. It is by design. They didn't complain about Obama's involvement in the day-to-day of Washington, D.C. Only when Trump does it. So, like I said earlier, when we read from the scriptures, this is an unfair weight. It's not balanced. Democrats in Washington, D.C., which is majority Democrat, love it when a Democrat president is too involved. But when it's a Republican president, they have polls like this.
Just 11% who say they want him more involved. In fact, a majority of every single demo tested by the Washington Post in a poll earlier this year found that they believed that he was, in fact, too involved. D.C. residents hate this whole idea of Trump getting involved in local issues.
All right. So, yeah. So there you have it. Trump is wrong for getting involved in solving your crime problem because he's Trump. Obama didn't do anything about your crime problem. He was fine with it. Joe Biden, not sure if he knew what was going on in the city, but let's assume he was fine with it. And then a president finally decides to do something about it to show an example. Because here's what Trump wants to do. And he said as much. He says, we're going to do this very quickly. And once we do it and show everyone that it's possible, like what they said about the border. They said the border requires Congress to sit and to plan how the border will be closed. And Trump said, no, all it takes is a presidential move and it's closed. Everyone said, no, he's talking through his behind. And then he comes back into office and does exactly what he said was possible. All it takes is a decision by the president. So all the dancing and dribbling that the Biden administration did about the border, refusing to do anything about the border until over 10 million people came in illegally. You know, for those of you who want to say who they were undocumented, fine. They were undocumented. It still means illegally. Right? And when they were told repeatedly, why haven't you done anything about the border? They said they needed Congress to sit. And President Trump came in and solved the problem. In less than 6 months, the border was shut. So now he's about to do the same thing in these cities, or at least in Washington, D.C. And of course, the blue cities are panicking because when he cleans out the crime in those cities, the question will come up, how come you guys haven't done this in 60 years? You guys have said that you were trying to solve the crime problem in our cities, but look at what Trump did in Washington, D.C. in 3 months. He said it's not going to take time. I would predict he will get this solved in 3 months. And when the whole country sees that it is possible to solve crime or high crime rates in blue cities in less than 10 years, he does it in 3 months. Do you know what they're going to say? They will say it happened because he was an authoritarian. It happened because he used the military. He's not supposed to use the military. And then some others will say it happened because the crime rate was already low. So let's see if I'm right. Now, while we're talking about crime rates, there's a story out here that shows how evil the soft on crime stance of the Democrat Party is. We'll listen to this story and then give our reactions. Now, don't forget that you can post your comments in the comment section. You can also leave a chat. Leave a chat. I'm going to read your chat and respond to the chat. The poll on the YouTube side is still running. We're still at 100%. People agree that Trump's involvement in cleaning up crime in Washington, D.C. is a good thing. 100%. Reasonable people are taking the poll here. While you have unhinged Democrats saying that they're okay with crime, 71%. I have my issues with polls because honestly, people who take polls, who spend their time taking polls, tend to be people who aren't busy, tend to be. They don't have kids, they don't have jobs that are serious jobs. They're like people who have the time to take polls. Most people who are busy and have responsibilities don't take polls. So most of the time you run into these numbers. I am very suspicious about these numbers. Now let's go to the next story about this individual who was let out by soft on crime Democrat policies.
We begin with outrage in Kentucky after a convict released from prison 13 and a half years early under what they call shock probation just last year is brought up on new kidnapping, assault, and robbery charges. Armand Langford appearing in court yesterday. He is accused of abducting a woman and her 2 young sons from their house on Friday to help him go and rob a bank in Louisville.
Now, this is insane. This is insane. Is this what you want happening around you? I moved my kids from Africa to North America to keep them safe. I wouldn't move my family to a place where I knew the crime rates were high. That's why we live in the boonies, out in the country. I'm not out in the country.
So much for rehab. Police say he forced the mom to drive her own car at knife point while one of the sons was in the front. Langford sat in the back with the youngest son. When they arrived at the bank, Langford allegedly used the mom as bait, threatening to kill her if the teller didn't give him $20,000. The teller gave him some cash. He ran off.
This is crazy. And he happens to be black. Now, from one black man to another black man, okay, crime is not in the blood, all right? Crime is not a skin issue. It's about how people are raised. And most people who grew up in black communities, who don't have fathers, who are raised by single parents, tend to turn out like this. It is a miracle for a child to be raised by a single parent who doesn't have the time to raise him properly, to actually come out like a Dr. Ben Carson. It's very hard to have that happen. And usually people who have that happen are very strict on their kids. They don't let them join gangs and so on. It is a very hard thing to do. And so you have people on the Democrat side who say that being hard on crime is racist. And then you have reports like this, where people who are supposed to have gone through the penal system and have been reformed because they went through a rehab system, they come out and they immediately do things like this.
But was found and arrested 6 hours later.
So the suspect is now being held on a $1 million bond, and we're learning he should have been serving a 14-year sentence for similar robbery.
Look at that.
But he was released from custody early on shock probation.
So he had done this before. And then the soft on crime policy of the Democrats let him out. And then he puts a mother and her 2 children at risk because he used them as human shields. Where does that sound familiar? How does that sound? Where have we seen that happen before? Oh yeah, what we see in Gaza with Hamas. Of course, the Democrats support what's going on with Hamas. look, you cannot say they don't, because they back all of the pro-Palestine, pro-Hamas protests. It is a tragedy what's going on in Palestine, in Gaza, but it is the fault of Hamas. And so Hamas puts civilians between them and consequences. I'll use the term consequences. They cause trouble, and then they put innocent civilians in between them and consequences. And then when civilians get impacted by the trouble they caused, they take videos of all of that and go to the UN to claim that that Israel is killing innocent civilians. It's sad, and it is evil. And what's equally evil is people who run interference for that kind of behavior.
July of 2024, after serving just 5 months. Shock probation allows certain misdemeanors and felony offenders a second chance after a short time behind bars.
What?
A judge considers the seriousness of their crime and how the criminal is attempting to reform. The convict then serves the remainder of their sentence on probation if granted.
I'd never heard of that before. Meanwhile, Langford was granted shock probation under the conditions that he completed intensive outpatient treatment and submit to random drug tests. The family said this would never happen if Langford had served his full punishment.
Other states like Ohio, Indiana, Georgia, Texas, Alabama, and Iowa also offer shock probation programs. So he
And how's the crime rates in those cities? Ohio, isn't that where we had the brawl? They called it a brawl. It wasn't a brawl. It was a. I don't want to use a word that the YouTube AI would find and flag this video. It wasn't a brawl. People ganged up on people who weren't the same race as they were, and they beat them severely, injuring them, and everyone who was on the left thought it was fine, that the white people deserved it. So it's interesting to see how these cities deal with crime. So yet again, blue cities show us how they handle crime. They are soft on crime, and when you're soft on crime, you have more criminals in the general population. And with more criminals in the general population, you have more crime. Who knew? Who knew that would happen? Who knew? Blue cities do this every single time. Now let's talk about Adam Schiff. Adam Schiff has been having a hard time recently. And here's a recent report. And let's hear what the White House press secretary has to say about it.
The president has already said he wants to see Adam Schiff held accountable for the countless lies he told the American people in relation to the Russiagate scandal. I brought Tulsi Gabbard out to this podium to talk to you about all of that. And this administration is taking accountability very seriously. As for this new FBI whistleblower report, I understand Kash Patel last night declassified a 302 FBI document showing that a whistleblower who is a Democrat, a career intelligence officer who worked for Democrats on the House Intel Committee for more than a decade, repeatedly warned the FBI in 2017 that then Rep. Adam Schiff had approved leaking classified information to smear then President Donald Trump over.
Okay, so if this had happened, if this was a Republican who did this, he would be in jail today. They would have prosecuted him, and he would still be in jail today. Guaranteed. So Democrats are vicious when they handle issues like this when a Republican is involved. We saw it over the last 5 years. We saw how they treated the Republicans who took a stroll through the Capitol on January 6th. And we saw how they treated the so-called protesters who were protesting U.S. support for Israel because they were supporting Hamas, not Palestine, Hamas. They interfered with the proceedings, on Capitol Hill, regularly doing sit-ins, protesting in the halls. And what happened to them? Nothing. So it's interesting to see these things play out. And when we have these conversations in real time or in retrospect, sometimes it feels like you're not sure that these things actually happened. Adam Schiff was reported by a whistleblower to have leaked classified documents. That's jailable.
For the Russiagate scandal. This is obviously a bombshell whistleblower report. Hopefully more people in this room will cover it as such. And I have a quote from the FBI director for all of you. He has said this: "For years, certain officials used their positions to selectively leak classified information to shape political narratives. It was all done with one purpose: to weaponize intelligence and law enforcement for political gain. Those abuses eroded public trust in our institutions. The FBI will now lead the charge with our partners at DOJ, and Congress will have the chance to uncover how political power may have been weaponized and to restore accountability." That's what the administration is focused on, and hopefully.
And we're going to hear MSNBC, TDSBC say that the Trump administration is weaponizing the legal system against their political enemies. Yeah, cue the tape. They're going to say it, and they're going to run it all through the proceedings with Adam Schiff, if there are proceedings. Now, here's the story. I think this has more information, and then we'll talk about it. Don't forget, you can leave your comments or your thoughts in the chat. All right, we're live. Leave it in the chat. Let's know what you think about this story. I want us to have a conversation around these three stories. One, the pushback that Democrats have been making over the whole Trump situation, inserting himself to crack down on crime in Washington, D.C. The poll tells it that 100% believe that it's the right thing to do. All right, it is 100%. People want their cities to be safer. They want their families to be safe. They want to be safe. They move to safer locations. They don't go to more dangerous locations. It is a human sensation to want safety. For people to go out of their way to say, no, I don't want safety because I don't like the person providing the safety. It's a mental issue. It's a mental issue. So let's listen to this story, and then we'll give our thoughts on it, and then take your comments.
A report this morning alleges an intelligence officer who worked for Democrats on the House Intelligence Committee warned FBI investigators California Senator Adam Schiff authorized leaking classified information over the Russia collusion hoax back in 2017. Well, joining us this morning to discuss this latest headline in that collusion conspiracy scandal is former FBI special agent in charge, Jody Weiss. Jody, good morning to you. This latest information is allegedly from an FBI interview back in 2023 when that whistleblower said that Schiff called this all-staff meeting, and in that meeting, Schiff said the group would leak this classified intel because it was derogatory to Trump and would be used to indict him. Of course, this information, as we now know, is false, but what did you make of this allegation to begin with?
You know, Jan, I feel like I'm in another chapter of a Robert Grisham novel. If this is true, this is absolutely shocking. Leaking information is a crime, no doubt about it. Leaking information with the intent to smear a president, with the intent to perhaps indict a president, that should terrify every American in this country, regardless of party. if you think about it, though, I say I'm shocked, and maybe I'm not, because it kind of aligns with the referrals from Tulsi Gabbard, all with the intent to undermine an incoming president. So what I'm going to think interesting about this, just think if this allegation, when they do the investigation, can somehow be tied to the allegations referred by Tulsi Gabbard, then you have a conspiracy. And then the statute of limitation is no longer an issue. So I think as Americans, we just have to be patient and let the investigators follow the evidence. But this is a shocking revelation.
Yeah, and I've not
Okay,
seen.
so that's interesting. So, conspiracy to do stuff like this doesn't the statutes of limitations don't apply to these sorts of situations. I would say, everyone be calm. Everyone take a breath, relax. These things happen once in a generation. They do. They happen once in a generation. There's a conspiracy to take down someone really powerful. The world shakes about it. Everyone says, oh, how could this be? The world is coming to an end. Everyone freaks out, says things they shouldn't say. And then 20 years later, the world keeps spinning on. Everyone that was involved is dead and gone. The world keeps moving. There's always something like this going on. But, with this going on in the United States, the issue is that consequences for actions like this need to happen. So let's see if eventually we have hearings and indictment and whether this actually goes the distance. I'm very skeptical that it will go the distance. I don't think it will. I said as much about the Epstein situation. I did. I said I'm not sure we will see anyone indicted for those crimes because powerful people get away with things like this. It is the way the world has always worked. What tends to happen, and if you want to ask, okay, so how is it just? How is it fair? I'll tell you what happens in situations like this. When you have powerful people who believe that they are above the law, who are beyond reach, what tends to happen is that a higher power judges them. And the judgment is insane when it happens. Sometimes there's an agent, there's a human agent to it. Sometimes there's an unseen agent that latches on to these people and judges them. So I believe there is a heaven and I believe there is a hell. And when I see situations like this, where there are people who seem to be above the law, I'm like, yeah, they are above human law, but they aren't above divine law. There is a heaven, there is a hell. You might laugh about it, you might snicker about it, but it is true. There is a heaven, there is a hell. People who are too powerful to be judged by human hands will be judged by divine hands. So just be at peace. The whole Epstein situation gets people really upset. They want to see fire and brimstone happening right now in real time. Sometimes it just doesn't. Sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes it's delayed. Sometimes it takes a while. But judgment eventually happens. Same goes for everything else we see politicians doing. No matter who they are, whether they are on the left or on the right, there will always be justice. And justice isn't about how we define justice. Justice isn't about how we define justice. It's about how he defines justice. Sometimes he's patient with these people. He's waiting for them to own up to their crimes. The Bible tells us that God is long-suffering. He waits. He wants people to repent. You're like, how can he wait for someone like this to repent? That's how good he is. He's been good to you. He's been good to me. So sometimes I really want judgment to fall on these people. And then God reminds me of how patient he's been with me. I have been difficult to work with. With God, I have had a hard time. obeying him. But he's been patient with me. And sometimes he's patient with these people. And sometimes, do you know what? These people are tools. They are tools being used to do something. And when he's done using them, they will still face judgment. Have you seen their kids? Have you seen their marriages? Don't you think that they are literally going through judgment right now for some of them? So just relax, be at peace. Don't freak out. The Epstein situation happened as it did. I told you, powerful people usually don't get caught up in indictments. They have a way of getting out of them. I said it then, and I'm saying it now. I'm not holding my breath about this Adam Schiff situation. The Republicans have repeatedly shown how spineless they can be about indicting Democrats. So I don't think anything is going to happen. I don't think so. But there is a heaven, there is a hell. Let me know what you think in the comments and in the chat. Now, before we wrap up, I want to promote a program that I'm doing for small YouTubers who want to learn how I do what I do, how I record, how I live stream. If you're interested in learning how I do all of this, there's a link in the video description on YouTube, and I think it might be on X and also on Rumble. If you're watching from there, just go into the video description, hit the link, and book a call with me. It's a free call where I talk with you about what you believe you should be doing, on YouTube and the kind of content you should be creating. And then I'll see if I can help you. All right. My channel has grown by the grace of God to 10,500 followers. For a lot of people, it is not much, but for a handful of people out there, it is a lot, because maybe you just have 2 subscribers or 100 subscribers or 300 subscribers. When I was at 300 subscribers, I would look at people with 10,000 subscribers, 5,000 subscribers like they were Goliath, like they were huge. So I know how you feel. I want to help you. So if you want my help, go into the description of this video or this live stream, click on the link, and and book a call. It's a free call. And then we'll have a conversation and see how we can help you. So we don't have too many chats, real-time chats. I love having real-time chats, but I don't see any of you biting. A couple of you are watching from Twitter or X. You can leave a comment on X. If you're watching on Rumble, please go ahead and also leave a comment or a chat. I would love to answer your questions before we dock out for the day. So since for the last couple of weeks, for those of you who watched the live stream on the 29th of July, I was laid off from work on that day, and it was really like, okay, I think I saw it coming, and so it didn't really hit me that hard, but I believe that it's giving me permission to do more here on YouTube. So yes, to be honest, I'm still trying to, get another job, and I'm working on that. But I would really want to take this free time to invest in you guys on YouTube. And that's why I'm also creating this opportunity to help other people on YouTube who want to learn what I do. What technology do I use? What camera do I use? What mic is this? I have people asking me these questions. What mic is this? The sound is great. How do you do the sound? How do you do the lighting? How do you do your sound suppression? All right. Now, I'm sweating a lot because today has been very hot over here. All right. It's been very hot. 35 degrees. It's been very hot. So, but people have been asking questions, and I genuinely want to help. So if you feel like you're that person who needs to talk to me, book a 45-minute call. We will talk about everything, your dreams, what you want to do with content creation, everything that is connected to your passion for helping people or talking about things. I talk about news and politics, not because I essentially enjoy talking about news and politics, but I have to talk about news and politics because it's telling me where the world is going, what the world is thinking. And I'm thinking about my children. So I talk about these things because I'm leaving breadcrumbs for them to learn how to see the world. I honestly try not to take these things seriously. I don't take these things too seriously. All of these shenanigans by politicians, I try not to take them seriously because they will say the same thing about the next politician and the next politician. If you watch politics from the 70s and the 60s, you'll be shocked. Like the political opponent of the left, they said that these people would end the world. They said stuff like that. They said different things that they claimed were a catastrophe. Like we just heard the mayor of Chicago saying that Trump is a danger to humanity. They use inflammatory statements like that to make you think that things are worse than they really are. So don't take it too seriously. I don't. I try not to. I listen to them. I can see through the lies and I just laugh at it. But you know what? I am grieved because there are people out there who literally believe what these people say. They believe it. And they trust in TDSBC and CNN. They trust them. You can see it in the comments. You can see it in, I have family members who believe these things. So I just use this medium to express what I think, and that is what I'm doing, okay? Why don't you do something else that's fun for you? Because it's not going to make an impact, on my kids. It might be fun for the viewers, yes, but my kids, I'm concerned about my kids. So for me, it's really important to set this up to talk about things that will affect my kids in the future. Now, for you, it might be something else. You might want to do a different kind of video. So I want to support you. All of this has been to invite you into my world. Use the link in the description to request a meeting, a free call. It's a free call. We're going to talk and we'll find out how I can help you if I can. All right, so I'm going to be live again tomorrow and I'll try to make it the same time, but I'm going to be letting you know before what time by scheduling the live stream. So look out on YouTube, on Rumble, or on X. I'll let you know when the scheduled live stream is on those platforms. And I hope you will join me. Now, if you're not subscribed on the YouTube channel, please consider subscribing. Hit the bell icon to be notified once we schedule the next live stream for tomorrow. And I hope to see you then. It's been a blast hanging out with you. And I do hope that our stream tomorrow will be met with, more engagement. Thank you so much. And I hope to see you booking a call. And I hope to talk with you about your dreams and the things that you would love to do. So until tomorrow, God bless you and have a nice night. Welcome to Headlines and History, live news reactions and your views. We're about to go live soon, so grab your spot and balanced take on today's biggest news stories with a dash of historical insight. Stay tuned. Each week, we tackle the headlines that matter: politics, economics, global events with a balanced lens. We'll react live, tie today's stories to historical moments, and spotlight your views in the chat. From trade talks echoing the 1990s to crises recalling 2008, we're here to unpack it all. Your voice drives the show. Share your thoughts or historical parallels in the live chat, and we'll dive into the best ones. It's news, context, and community all in 1 hour. We're moments away from launching Headlines and History. Stick around for live reactions, historical nuggets, and your chance to chime in. Hit the notification bell, prep your comments, and let's make sense of the news together. See you